So, welcome back, everybody, to the Success Partner Podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef, and today we have Sarah Westra in the studio to meet with us. I was so excited. We had a Zoom coffee not too long ago. We met at a provisors meeting, no surprise there. And she's just so passionate about what she does. It's a calling for her. It's not just a practice. And so, Sarah, I'd love for you to tell us more about your story, how you got started, and what it is you do.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. And it was such a pleasure to meet you on a Zoom coffee session. Great idea on your behalf, and I'm sure one of many. So I am Sarah Westra. I practice exclusively criminal defense. It is all I have ever done or wanted to do. I would not have gone to college if you didn't have to go to college to go to law school. I knew I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 8 years old, and then starting in high school, I really was drawn to criminal defense, and particularly indigent criminal defense, representing people often the most vulnerable in our society, to give them a voice and stand up for them when they're accused of wrongdoing, whatever it may be. So I have my own practice, and with my associate, who's on the other side of this wall, she can't hear me. But we represent people in Massachusetts, all around, primarily Norfolk County, but I go anywhere. And we do criminal defense at the trial level. So if it starts with an investigation, if the police contact someone, if the police are calling you, you should call me. And then we, all the way through a jury trial. We don't do any appeals. I did a little bit of that when I first graduated law school, and sitting behind a desk and a computer doing legal research and writing is not my passion. My passion is really the trial work, the interacting with clients, the building the rapport and the trust that you need, so that they know that you are a person who is, entrusted with their liberty, really. Mm-hmm. And that is a tremendous responsibility, and it is one that it's my privilege to stand by my clients and fight for them and stand up for them. So that's all I've done since, I passed the bar as soon as I got my card. I was in court.
I love that.
Before that too, but.
Right. I love that. And so when you're working with these people, they really have to be a partner in their own defense. And so that's a true testament to you being able to establish that relationship. Any pointers there?
Establishing trust really is when you first meet a client, it can be everyone is different. Nobody's a potted plant. Clients aren't potted plants. So people come to me from all walks of life, and sometimes they're, very successful professionals. Sometimes they're homeless and, detoxing. And sometimes they've been to court a number of times. Sometimes it's their very first time. They'll have support and not support. I mean, it ranges. Everyone is different. And what I find is that I act like myself. I don't bullshit anybody. I say when I have to have the hard conversations, the come to Jesus conversations, is at that point, we really have established a rapport with the client at that point. It's I don't want to be the person that has to tell you this, but my job is to tell you this. And here are your options. There's door number 1. There's door number 2. There's not a door number 3. And so tell me what you want to do, and we will do that. Especially when it comes to, is this a case you want to resolve short of trial, or is this a case that we're going to trial? That's not a decision that I can make. It's a decision my clients have to make. And my job is to just make sure that they understand everything. Initially, to actually answer the question that you asked me, I listen to them. I ask them questions. So I have an initial intake where I go through, it's almost like a bio background. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, I'll ask questions okay, well, you have name, name, age, where do you live? Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What do you do when you're not working or in school? Any hobbies or interests or something like that. Or people will say, they'll offer something, and it's and I'll just ask them a question about just some random thing that they end up mentioning because I am interested. It's not just state your name, how old are you, blah, blah, blah. It's trying to figure out who they are as a person. Mm-hmm. And it also, a lot of times people they're almost always anxious. Or nervous, especially when they're first meeting with an attorney. And these are all questions that everyone knows the answer to. So it starts with, I'm going to get all this background information from you. I'm going to ask you these questions. And then you end up starting a dialogue. And then through that, then we get into, all right, we're going to go through your case. And then we start talking about that. But at that point, I think my personality can't not come out. And I think that my sincerity and how genuine I am in wanting to help. And I tell everyone, like, I can't promise you what is going to happen because ethically I can't do that. But I can promise you that I will do everything that I can do to help you. And I mean it when I say it. And people, I don't represent really many juveniles, but so by the time, we all have our life experiences where we're constantly gauging people's credibility and sincerity in our everyday interactions. So it's we all have the capacity to decide, do I believe this person or not believe this person? Mm-hmm. And I am genuine and sincere in what I say, and I think that comes across. And so you start from like that initial conversation, and then you work your way through the case, and they get to know me and my approach. And especially when they see you in court, like fighting for them, I'm naturally very loud, and I'm working on that because I think that the loudness can be more effective if it's not consistent. So trying to calm down, like slow down. I can get really worked up about things. My delivery, depending on who my audience is, whether it's a judge or a jury. A judge, I find the if I stay up here the whole time, you lose the message through the noise.
They tune you out.
Slowing down, calming down, taking like your argument with, at a pace that is not the pace that my brain is going. And that's something that I'm still working on, but it's fun to play. It's fun to play around with it. But I do really mean what I say when I'm fighting for my clients in the courtroom, and then when I'm talking to them outside of the courtroom. And almost no one ever wants to be in, just turn on do not disturb system. No, almost nobody wants to be in a courtroom, and people. There's that mentality like, oh, you're in court, you're charged with a crime, like criminals. Naturally leads us to be like this them and us mentality. It could be anyone. Right. I mean, people come through my door never expecting to, need a criminal defense attorney, but man, when they do, I hope, and I think that they are grateful that they find their way to me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love that when you're talking about raising your voice and things like that, it just shows your passion coming through, but then also making some decisions on how this is going to land for the jury or the judge. You also mentioned like the state of your clients, like no one's a potted plant. What's the court system like there? Do they have like drug courts or women courts or things like that, like we're seeing in other states?
But
they're starting a women's court apparently in a jurisdiction in Alabama to look at the differences because women and men commit crimes for different reasons. And they're looking into that. I don't know if it's going to be a thing or not.
I've never even heard of something like that. And I have questions, but I'll answer yours. There's specialty courts is what they're called in Massachusetts. So we have like a mental health court, a recovery court, which used to be known as drug court. They're starting like a gun court of sorts. I haven't participated in any sort of gun court at this point. I don't know what that looks like or why. I'm skeptical and have suspicions about it. I imagine it's because firearms are extraordinarily unpopular in Massachusetts, even though it's Second Amendment. And I won't talk about that. I won't get on a preachy thing about that. But the mental health court and the recovery court are run really similar, the idea at least, where it is, a judge who gets to see a select group of individuals in a more intimate setting where like they get to talk directly to the judge. It's weekly or bi-weekly. It depends on how long you're in the program, how often you have to show up to court to meet with the judge. Lawyers only get involved when people who are participating end up either relapsing or reoffending, and then their sort of probationary status or their status in the specialty court is in jeopardy. And then, of course, their liberty is in jeopardy, and that's why you have the right to counsel, because anytime your liberty is at stake, you have the right to counsel. And if you can't afford an attorney, the court will provide one for you. But not only for offenses that you can go to jail for. So I think that with recovery court, the stigma around substance abuse has come a long way. And also the openness to medication-assisted treatment has also come a long way. I can remember times where there was mentality of, Suboxone, methadone, that's like not true recovery, but the science, from what we're learning, says otherwise. Like, people's greatest chance of success is, often with medication assisted treatment. And same thing with mental health court too. I often talk so many times, especially at the district court level and also at the superior court level, people find themselves in contact with the criminal justice system because of either a mental health condition or a substance abuse disorder. For whatever, everyone's different, but that's when they find themselves in contact with the criminal justice system. And then the question is, how do we help? But at the same time, the court has, mixed obligations. Primarily, the court's obligated to, the community. They're obligated to defendants who are in court to make sure that due process is followed and their rights are protected, which is what defense attorneys do. But you have to find this balance where, like, what is the community going to accept? And in sentencing, often, there's many components where there's a punishment component, there's a rehabilitative component, there's community safety component. I don't want to speak for any judge because I'm not one, but they also range in their own personal opinions about,
of course,
things. There is, I know, more of a understanding right now about relapse being part of recovery, and nobody wakes up and is like, I want to be a heroin addict. It's for a number of reasons, people find themselves in that situation, and it's, I think, unrealistic. Not from what we know and what the evidence has shown us, that to say, well, if we just say you're going to go to jail if you use drugs, that's not going to stop people from relapsing. And seeing substance abuse disorder as a medical condition as opposed to a criminal offense, I'm very much in support of that. As long as, if somebody relapses, they're going to have a condition, don't use drugs, and they do. But if it's not in connection with a new offense, then really, the solution is not put them in jail.
Right. It's not in and of itself a intentional criminal act. And I think the idea behind these courts, yes, we want people to be accountable for their crimes and their criminal activities, but we also don't want them just to keep going back to jail. So yeah, nobody wants that.
Yeah. And if it was that easy, if you don't want to go to jail, don't relapse.
Doesn't work that way.
It's their brain chemistry is different. It's not like you're making a decision like, a fully functioning, sober adult. It's a whole separate condition.
Great. Wonderful. Well, how do people find you to learn more about your work and your practice?
I have a website. It's sarahwestralaw.com. It has a bunch of information on it. And I know I have a LinkedIn too.
Okay.
I'm sure you could
I will. Yes. I will link that in the show. I will link that in the show notes. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being on the show today. I just want to thank everybody for coming to the show today, listening to today's episode with Sarah Westra. Again, this is the Success Partner Podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned.
Thank you, Daya.